Hello. Hey, Sarah. How's it going?
Great. How are you doing?
Um,
How's the holiday end of year rush for you?
it's good. Yeah, it's very busy. I think in personal and professional fronts. So that's it's good. Good to stay busy. How about you?
Um, it's good. I feel like there's a lot of kind of like 2025 planning happening. We have a
Yeah.
board meeting this week. A lot of our customers are planning like their 2025 budgets and spend and all that
Right.
stuff.
Right.
But our business is generally slower in December.
Got it.
Just in terms of, like, parents aren't searching for childcare in
Right.
December around the holidays, but we still, I feel like, are keeping busy as a company with lots of
Good.
preparing for the new year.
Yeah. I'm curious. Is January time that people would
And
switch
January
childcare
is, like, a peak, like, it actually starts, like, as early as January 1st,
for the next
where
calendar for the next year,
well, like, what
next school
happens
year?
is parents will, like, log on January 1st and start looking
Mm,
for childcare and be really intentional, and so we just see, like, a huge spike in traffic in January compared to December, and
got
so
it.
we like to prepare all our customers, like, "Be ready," like, make sure everything is
Right.
up to date and ready, and you're ready for a big kind of influx of inquiries
Right.
starting January 1st, and it always takes us by surprise because 'cause we're always like, we always have off January 1st. We're
Yeah.
always like,
Yeah.
"Really? This soon?" It is, and I think there's also, like, this feeling of, like, you're home with your kids over the holidays, and while that is
Yeah.
amazing and people love to spend family time, they're also like, "Alright, now we
Right.
gotta, like, figure out, like, our situation and get things straightened out because maybe we had a little too much family time."
Yes. Yeah.
So it's
That's
big
for
also
sure.
for, like, preschool enrollment. A lot of the preschools that are enrolling on, like, a fall calendar,
Right.
school year will, be accepting applications starting in January and, like, making decisions for the fall.
Yeah, it's all every company has their different peaks and valleys
Yes.
throughout the year, right? Like, think of like you're a consumer, like your Netflix or something like that. Like, this is gonna be your busiest time of the year.
Yeah, I mean, and all like, everyone that is selling, goods that could be gifted for the holidays,
Yes.
like, this is always a really, you make your numbers.
Yes.
Or my friend who runs a Christmas tree business, like, very
Right.
seasonal stuff.
Right.
So I just always we always try to keep that in mind. Like December is slow for us, but January is very big and we have
Right.
big months and slower months. And we also like to, really communicate that to our customers so everyone understand like when are the big seasons or slower
Yeah.
seasons.
Do you have any really busy seasons that people typically like to take off and for your employees and that you
Oh
have like
yeah.
certain rules around?
Yes, we do. We have started doing that because it's like everyone likes to take off in August, but
Yes.
August is
Yeah.
like our
Right.
busiest month
Right. Right.
ever. And so we don't say like you can't take off in August, but we try to make sure there's coverage and
Right.
also like if you're debating like, do I take off in August or do I do a big vacation in December? We're like,
Yeah.
December. That's the big
Right.
one. Like do it then. When there's not a lot of activity happening anyway, not in August.
We actually do it even stronger. So it's like there's blackout dates that
Oh, that's good.
you cannot take off at all. And that's very normal in like logistics and like any like e-commerce related businesses because it's just things are just so crazy. And
Yeah.
it is all around Christmas time. And when people typically do like to take some holidays. So it's like it's like, okay, January is kind of the time that you can kind of take some time off, or during the summer, it's a little slower. Yeah, but it's kind of like we black out stuff.
I mean, even just providing the guidance has been helpful because I feel like we haven't had any issues ever since we were like, "Hey, if you're debating between August or, like, you could push it to later in September or you could
Yeah.
push it all the way to December, like,
Yeah.
you could take a longer vacation then."
Right.
And then people are, like, happy to accommodate. There's always things that come up like weddings or whatever.
Right.
I feel like generally it's just about communication, setting expectations.
Yeah, and I think doing that as early as possible so people can plan around it. I
Yes.
think that they're fine with that, especially people who join startups. They're there to hopefully do really great work, and as long as they know and they can plan around it, they should be okay. But
Yeah.
like when it's like, "Hey, I just booked this trip," but it's like, "You can't take the time off," then people get fucking pissed.
Yeah. And I mean, you disagree with me on this because you're not a remote work advocate like I am.
No.
But one of the nice things about remote work is like there is the opportunity to work from another place. So, I like
Yeah,
to,
you mean work from another
yeah.
place.
I mean,
I'm
I,
using,
yes,
hand
yes,
quotations here.
yes, and no. Like, so first of all,
Working, vacation, or whatever, you're not fucking working.
so I think there's a difference between being logged off entirely and like checking in and being responsive. And especially in like customer facing roles, like I'm happy for someone to take partial days. I would much prefer that over like a fully signed up vacation. And I can let them do that for
Would you?
longer.
Would you actually? Or don't you want your employees to actually, like, if they're on vacation, to be
No,
totally logged off and, like, to be able to
no. I mean,
recharge?
I really find that more disruptive to the business. And I also don't buy into that recharging. Like, I just took Thanksgiving week, we went to
Yeah, but founders
Tokyo.
are founders are different, though.
Yeah, but, like, it is so much work to train someone up fully in your role,
Yeah,
like, and then all the stuff that's waiting for you when you get back, all the messes. Whereas, like, if you can be like, "Look, I am not able to do this stuff, and, like, I am gonna take that time off, and I'm gonna log it, and, like,
right.
it is a vacation if you're only working a little bit." But maybe you wanna only take a couple days, you wanna work 1 day while you're gone or a couple days
Yeah,
while you're gone. And that allows for first of all, it's not all the stress in preparing for it and then coming back to this mess that you left. Um,
right,
and like and you get to recharge and and take the time. So I feel like we can take advantage of that flexibility with having remote work. It's one of the things we can do. There are disadvantages to remote work, but like we should take
many.
advantage of the fact that we can work from other locations.
Yeah,
And so, I take advantage of it and I'm okay with employees doing it as long as when they are taking time off, like
right,
they are accounting for that.
right. Well, do you wanna kick off your first topic that you had?
Okay, so I don't think we can have this podcast now and not talk about the
Yes.
assassination, the murder of the United
Yeah,
Healthcare CEO.
yeah,
Um, and as like a true crime junkie, I've definitely spent like many hours last night digging through the internet and coming to our theories. But I actually don't want to talk about the murderer
yeah,
and the suspect and
right,
him. I
right.
really want to talk about um as a founder, as a
So for anybody who's living under a rock, what
oh, yeah.
happened?
So the CEO of United Healthcare, um, the biggest health plan, one of the biggest health
I think it's
insurers,
one of the biggest in the US.
was killed, murdered in New York City, leaving, his hotel in Midtown in kinda cold blood, like, someone with a gun with a silencer shot him.
Yeah,
He was walking early in the morning to a planned meeting, um, and for a long time for, a couple days, we didn't know who did it and
right,
looked like the suspect was on the loose. They just, brought in arrested someone that they, believe might have done it. There's all these theories as to whether he
right.
did or didn't, or whether he acted alone or was whatever, but, um, lots of people on the internet are also talking about, you know, the fact that health insurance in this country is broken and like he was the CEO of a company that a lot of people had contempt for that were angry with because of health insurance being a broken system and
Yeah,
people not being able to afford the health care that they need. And even before the suspect was, announced who it was, people were saying, I bet someone killed him because they were mad about health insurance.
yeah,
Um, And in fact, some people went so far as to say that this was, a good thing. And I just want to, say, for the sake of saying it, like,
Cold-blooded murder is not a good
that's
thing, no
horrible.
matter
Like,
what.
this is a father. This was a good person. Uh, and he did not deserve by any stretch of the imagination to be killed because you're upset about the health insurance system in this country. And the fact that there are multiple people, including like very prominent media figures like Taylor Lorenz, going out there on national
I saw
television
her
and
on, yeah,
saying
Pierce
she's
Morgan, yeah,
joyful
yeah,
because this man, Brian Thompson, was murdered is horrible. Like, I just cannot condemn that enough. That is absolutely wrong. Um, but I do want to talk about, as a founder, as a
yeah,
CEO, um,
or a public figure,
as a public figure, as someone who has a social media presence, like, are you at risk
right,
of someone using your product and being upset and coming after you in some way? And how should you be thinking about the risk you're taking on as the CEO?
right,
Especially, like, we think about this at Winnie because we work in a sensitive industry, childcare. It's something
right,
that, when it goes wrong, it can go very, very wrong. And just like people are saying he deserved to die because healthcare people die because they can't get healthcare.
yeah,
They say that about childcare. Oh my God, a child was hurt. The CEO of the childcare company deserves to die.
right,
They could very well say that too. And so I actually think about this a lot in terms of protecting myself as a CEO, protecting my employees. Um, and I think it is worth a discussion because we do have a lot of founders and CEOs of
yeah,
growing businesses listening to this, and like, and I've also made a lot of mistakes. Like, how should you be thinking about your own safety as a
right.
public figure?
Yeah, no, it's super scary, and this kinda goes along with a lot of, like, the influencers that have had people, like, either break into their places, steal a bunch of stuff, or actually, like, assault people, and this is obviously taking that to the other degree, but, like, what can you do? I don't know, what are some tips that you have that you would say to other people? You have a big social media, following. I don't know, have you actually gotten noticed in public before?
Oh, I've been noticed in public just like people being positive generally, but
Yep.
I did have like one major incident where
Wow, okay.
um, someone came to my home and it
Really?
was very scary. And I don't want to reveal the details because even though this was now, I think like 5 years ago,
Wow.
um, I don't wanna encourage someone else to do this. And I don't know, I still don't know who did it, so I don't want
Yeah,
to encourage this person who I believe is a stalker, to do it again. But, I did have to get the police involved. But I think one of the big things I learned, and I am very guilty of having done this, and I still do it,
yeah,
um, but I am more careful about it, is just sharing your whereabouts
yeah,
while you're,
there.
uh, in it. I think it's different if it's even a day later and you said, "I was at this conference and it was wonderful and here's what I learned." But you do have to be careful to share things in, uh, while it's happening and
Yeah,
while you're there, especially if, um, you're kind of in a situation where you're trying to protect, you think you might have someone that's stalking you or going after you in some way.
right.
And that was the one, like, the police were like, "You have to stop posting anything on social media," and I was like, "No way." They were like, "Definitely don't share your location."
But
Uh,
there's also sometimes there's times you can't do that, right? You're gonna be at a conference, and it's posted publicly that you're gonna be there, and
yeah.
people like, I've had that before, there's a line of people wanting to talk to you, or you're trying to get into an Uber afterwards, and people are following you out and asking you stuff, like,
Yeah, I think
what
it's
can you
like a
do?
calculated risk, like, uh when you're at a conference and you wanna promote the conference and the fact that you're speaking and you want people to attend, I think that's a calculated risk. Like, in that case, you know, it may be important to share that you're gonna be at this talk at this time,
Sure.
uh, but a lot
But
of stuff
but but
probably
e but
isn't.
even, what I meant was, like, even the conference is going to say that you're gonna be there, so regardless of you if you share it, people are gonna know
Yeah.
where you're gonna be at that time.
Yes. So, like, I think it would be a disservice to the company to never share like, "I'm speaking at the National Head Start Association next week. I've been sharing that. I want our customers to come find me there if they, or happen to be there." But, you know, I don't need to share necessarily, like, the hotel I'm staying at for my family vacation. That has
Right.
no relevance to my company and building
So
my
that's like line of defense 1, like any personal stuff, just don't share it while you're there. If you wanted to share things online afterwards, just make sure you're not there at the presence. Would you go to I guess this is obviously like as prominent as you get, would you consider getting security for like events, potentially?
I mean, what's
Or do you know
interesting is, like,
other
I
people
feel
who
like as
do?
a woman, I actually stayed a few weeks ago at the Hilton Midtown, the hotel where the
Oh, wow.
CEO
Okay.
was shot. Um, I think you know, th there was probably little he could have done to prevent what happened to him because
Right.
and if he had security, like, who knows? But I never left that hotel and walked by myself,
Right.
uh, because as a woman, like, I would just never do that in the
Right.
morning, at night. I always found someone else to walk with, or I, ordered an Uber,
Right.
um, and I think there's just maybe some natural things that, um, I do to protect myself as a woman that, like,
Right.
maybe necessarily, men aren't necessarily thinking about. They need that protection, but you may if you're a prominent public figure, um, or CEO of a business that someone has an axe to grind with.
Yeah, I would even just think, like, you could just name even just the tech companies and how much backlash any one of them has gotten at a certain point in time, right? Do you think of Twitter and
Yeah.
all the stuff they went through? Like, name your favorite global thing that happened that Twitter got blamed for, or Uber, or Airbnb, or like just anything. And if you are the CEO or an executive or whoever of these companies, I think that you should really think about your security. Um, and I sure hope, but this is kind of next level. Like I don't remember a case that an actual CEO has been assassinated because based on what their company is. Well, that's still we don't know the actual motives here, but assuming that's the case, I don't think this has happened. Hopefully, this is not going to continue happening. But I think that you should consider, especially if you are prominent, especially if you are a controversial. Either person or company and you represent them, that you should take your personal security seriously. Like if you want to take it to the next step, like Mark Zuckerberg, right, one of the most famous people in the world. I think when they did their IPO filing, I believe his like personal security was like $500,000 or something a year or something like that. It was something crazy like that. Like that's when you get to that level, obviously,
Yeah.
people probably
But, like,
listening aren't there
I mean,
yet.
for founders in our, audience, like, I feel like, at the very least, try to be with other people. If you can, if you're
Yeah,
going to a conference by yourself and you have to show up somewhere, late at night when it's dark at a dinner, like, I always just try to coordinate to walk with someone just
right, right.
because I'm a woman in a strange city. And I think it's like, it's a little bit of a hassle, but or take an Uber,
Yeah,
so you're not walking alone in a city, but that's just a precaution that I would recommend anyone take. The other, like, thing that I messed up, um,
yeah.
so, like, it's pretty easy to find out where someone lives, especially when you know,
Mhm.
their name and the city, that they
Right.
live in. There are some services that I have since used to try to scrub some of that information from the internet, so it's not as prominent, but it's really hard, um, especially if you own a home. Um, I would recommend, though, that founders, especially when they're getting press, a lot of times the press wants to know where you live,
Yeah.
to cite, a whatever New York-based founder, this based founder. Um, if you live in a not New York or San Francisco, kind of smaller suburban city outside a major city, just say you live in the major city. Like,
Right.
it is just better for everyone, if you kind of make it not quite as easy to find you, if you don't give the name of your very specific town. So I've tried to avoid that. I know it's still out there in the internet. Don't at me with where I live.
Right.
Uh, and I
Right.
try to
It's
use the more major city whenever possible. The other thing is, and I made this mistake also when starting the business, was using my home address as the business address
yeah.
for all the things were registered to, you know, the old apartment I used to live in. First of all, it's a hassle to change when you move.
Yes.
But second of all, there are all kinds of services now. I use Spaces now for a virtual mailbox. So you can have a business address that is not your home address where you receive mail.
Right.
It's also good because then they can receive packages and things for me that I go
Yeah.
pick up.
Yeah.
There's millions of convenient locations, thousands of convenient locations. Um, and then that also can obfuscate, like, the specific place where you live.
Right. Or your office is out as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good advice. Well, hopefully people will take that to heart. And unfortunately, this is something like as you come up and you're a nobody, it may be harder to change afterwards unless you do move or move
Yeah.
offices or something like that. So just keep that in mind when you're like registering domains or anything tax related. Like I'm pretty sure that if you looked up Delaware C Corp, you're going to get the actual office location. It's pretty easy to find that
Yes.
kind of stuff. And most likely you don't have any sort of security in your building or something like that. So just kind of keep those things in mind. But yeah, that's sad to see.
The
But
other,
some good, yeah, tips.
the final tip I have,
Okay.
I'll stop here, but,
Yeah.
um, take threats really seriously. We had a threat come into Winnie,
Wow.
not a personal threat, but a really scary one, and it would have been easy to be like, "Well, this is just some random kinda spammer," but we reported it to the FBI, and they
Wow.
actually investigated and took action. It was not it ended up being something serious that they did figure out who the person was, and we were able to provide a lot of information that helped them. And this person, was shut down because of the information we provided, and it may have helped, save someone from harm. So
Wow. Wow.
I would just say, like, there are, use your your local police, use the FBI if it's something that's um across state lines and not a local issue, which a lot of internet properties will deal with.
Yeah.
They do take these reports really seriously. It will take up your time, and it was,
Right.
pretty time consuming thing once you report something to the FBI. But, um, there's really no better use of time than like potentially saving someone's life. So I
Yeah.
just like would really encourage everyone to take any kind of threat you receive that comes your way in some
Yeah.
way, whether that's through social media or into your support inbox or whatever it might be. Take it seriously. Don't just brush it off and ignore it. Sometimes these are actually really credible threats, and you want, the proper agency to investigate.
Yeah, and I also think this happens a lot more, obviously, because people don't talk about this because they don't want more of it. And so this obviously was not global news because this was a massive company and there was video footage and everything like that. But like this happens to a lot more people. I know a lot more other founders or other people who this has happened to. So kind of all the tips that you listed out there, Sarah, I think are great, and you should really take these things seriously.
Yeah.
All right. on, on a
A
different
lighter
note,
note
a
and not
lighter
murder note.
note. So kind of had a broad kind of topic here. And this of course has to do with AI and how this is all changing the way that you build and scale companies. I kind of wanted to kick this off with so Mark Benioff is doing, I think he actually just started his own podcast, which is kind of crazy. He's a little old school. But he's really big into Salesforce is now going and they have their own AI and big thing. He's actually saying that Salesforce is growing at the kind of the same rate they've always grown. They've always had great numbers, but they're not actually going to be hiring any computer science or engineers anymore. And they actually are going to start laying off some customer support roles.
You're
And
not
they're
gonna hire any engineers anymore?
no, no, they're able to get the same productivity with all of the tools of all of the you name your favorite cursor or the whatever LLM you're using or code completion tool or whatever, they're able to get the same productivity with the same amount of people. And then the other thing is they actually are hiring more salespeople. So showing growing business, getting more efficient. But then this also, which we were kind of going back and forth with, there's also I've seen a lot of for whatever reason on TikTok, there's a lot of people that have just
Okay, so he
graduated.
said for a year they won't be not ever.
He said indefinitely.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
I don't buy it because, like, if they actually wanna be a leader in AI, like, they may not need the same junior engineers, but they're gonna need to develop their AI functionality.
Repurpose, rehire people. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. All it means is that the engineer that was 10 years ago is able to be a lot more productive with a lot of these tools today.
Yeah.
And this also kind of led to the discussion of like and I've seen this a lot, people complaining that like they've graduated from name your favorite CS school with a 4.0. They can't get hired at Google or any of the major tech companies anymore because they're just not hiring these junior roles. Everybody, if they're hiring any engineers, it's going to be senior people that know how to use a lot of these AI tools. And so what is kind of happening to this and like what does that also mean when you're really looking to build a company as well?
Yes, I do believe that there are going to be less jobs for junior engineers,
Yeah,
um, because those, I think, are exactly the type of work that AI will be able to replace, or that, like, a more senior engineer could do both jobs with
of
some of these
course.
productivity tools. Um, so yeah, like, you might have hired someone to, like, tweak the front end and make it look this fancy way, and, like, pretty soon, your designer can just go in and make those change, or maybe now, and, you don't need all of this kind of, uh, yeah, very junior
Right.
staff.
Right.
And that's true, I think, of other roles as well. Like, you don't need
Totally.
the junior
The copywriter.
copywriter
Yeah. Yeah.
anymore. You need the, like, strategic, marketing person, but you don't need, like, the more junior execution type people
Yeah.
in the same numbers. Like, you probably do still need some, but, the tools can make folks more productive
Right.
and,
Right.
whatnot. But I actually think we're gonna see the rise of the product manager, and maybe I'm just saying that because that's my background. Um, but not the product manager in the sense of, like, I wrote the feature spec and I spec'd it
Mm,
out, but, like, what do we even build? Like, what problems are we trying to solve, and how do we solve them, and what's the best, most efficient way to do it with
yeah.
all of the new functionality we have available? I feel like that role is really, you know, going to be in high demand, especially as, like, engineering resources, I'm saying that in quotes, um, are easier to come by.
Right. I I I kind of agree with you, but I would not classify them as like the product manager. I'd kind of classify it as like the more generalist, just kind of get shit done. Also, like probably highly technical, probably more senior. I think the people that are able to utilize a lot of these AI tools today are the ones that like have been technical because they can't like and yes, you could argue that Cursor can make you this simple app that can do this thing and it does all this stuff. But like you still need to be kind of technical for like to get anything out into production. So I think the highest value assets right now and the way that like we're building our company is like around senior technical talent
Yeah.
that that also are business minded that that you can just get like 10x leverage that you don't need to have to hire a team around them and you can let them just go wild with all of these different tools and they're able to fill in the gaps and fix the stuff that the AI was not able to actually complete and all that. I think those people, whether that's going to be you as a founder, I think those types of founders will be more sought after from like a VC perspective, but also I think those types of employees that are more generalists. So I would give this advice to even my former self. Like if I was coming out of a college and it was too hard to get a job at one of the larger tech companies, I would just go and like either start and build something or just learn a lot of this AI shit and then just go and join a startup and just be a generalist and just like
Yeah.
build shit and like really know how to use your technical knowledge that you've probably learned and use it in a way that you could get so much leverage out of that and be the person in the company maybe that is the best at using a lot of these different tools because there's also going to be a big especially if you're joining a company that has some people there's going to be a lot of people that just never have picked up these AI tools and are not staying on top of it and you could be the person that could bring all of this stuff and show them how they could be 50% more productive and then you can be a very productive person inside of that company. And that's also the people that I want to hire
Yeah.
I'm looking to scale a company too. So I think those call it whatever you want, product manager or engineer that's product minded. I don't know, whatever
Yeah,
you
I mean, I
call it.
hate the term generalist because to me that's like someone who can't go deep, but I think it is like the ability to really go deep and execute using whatever you need, whether it's an AI tool or it's, an engineer that is now more efficient and so you can build things faster and easier. Like I just and that's why I think it's like this combination of strategy plus execution, which I always think of as a product manager. Not everyone respects the role as much, but I feel like that's a product manager, like someone who can be strategic, figure out what needs to get done, and then make it happen. Not just like a generalist who's like, oh, it would be great if we did this. It's so great. Like, but they
Yeah.
can't do it. Like,
Wh- wh-
everyone should be able to do stuff now because
yes.
of AI. And I'm like, I'm almost annoyed when people are like, have excuses for why like they can't do something because something else isn't done. I'm like, no, no,
Oh
no. Like,
God.
there's no excuse anymore. You can hack it up using the tools that are available, like figure out a way to make it happen. And I feel like that's the direction that hiring will go to, like people who can just make stuff happen.
Yeah. And when I say generalist, I mean like really generalist from like scoping out like what the what problem you're solving. So that probably is going to include talking to either customers or
Yeah.
if this is an internal tool, talking to the internal teams, specking something out. But like what you don't need to have now, you don't need to have a designer, you don't need to have a coder. If you are a little technical to kind of help those things, you could just spit into some AI design something like this. And then you go back to that person or you go back to review meetings or whatever. And it's like, does this solve what do you think about this? Give me feedback on this. What changes should we be making on this? And then if and then I would consider that like a higher level prototyping, and then maybe you need to
Well,
get
I
a
think
leap.
that's where, like, the junior person is not needed anymore because the junior person who needed, like, very specific instructions and couldn't productionize the thing anyway, like,
Yeah.
that's all replaced, but you still do need to scale the thing, to productionize the thing. That's, like, a more senior engineer, um, and I
Yes.
don't believe that Salesforce will not hire those people. I think they will get hired, and then I would say to the junior
Yeah.
people, like,
I tend to agree
don't
with you.
limit yourself to just being the junior engineer that needs, like, a spec to go change a font size. Really, like you were saying, go deep in the tools, figure out how to make stuff happen,
Yeah.
hack stuff together, and you will be more useful as this, like, whether we're calling it a generalist or a
Call it whatever. Yeah.
product
It's just
manager,
get shit
a
done
technical
person.
product manager, like, this person who can just get shit done,
Yeah.
whether that's someone who's right out of college or not, like, I think
Yeah.
that kind of hire is still gonna be really valued at these companies, especially as, like, there's more opportunity to take advantage of with AI.
Yeah. But the people who are not going to be wanted are the people that just got their degree and think they have a job waiting for them, and
Yeah.
they haven't taken the time to get up to speed on the latest and greatest tools. Those people, nobody is going to really hire. They're going to go and work for the shittiest large companies that need engineers just to fix their shitty bugs in there. And I also, to your point, yeah, did Mark from Benioff from Salesforce say that they're not going to hire anybody else? Sure, he did, because that's what he'd love to do. But like, they're a big ass company. They have our archaic ass
Yeah.
code. They're going to still need people that know that code base, and AI is not going to solve that. That's where I think, as a startup, you do have an advantage, because you don't have to keep track of your shitty ass old code base and all that. You can do things from new. But aspirationally, I think that's where he wants Salesforce to go, and he's going to tell all of his people to do that. I think that it's going to be impossible for them to actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, you set the tone and then, they're gonna make some hires for sure, so, but I think that the general vibe is probably what they're trying to do. I mean, I think 2025 for me will really be, like, the year of, like, does AI deliver on the promise? Like,
I think it's already delivered.
I mean, yes and no, like, it's definitely useful, and I definitely incorporate it as a tool into my day-to-day workflow and, like, but I don't think it's delivered on, like, the promise of the valuations and I think some of those valuations are expecting even more than just this cool, useful tool. I think it has to get more accurate, smarter, better, um, the tools that are built on it that promise all kinds of things like we'll be your sales team and we'll be your this and we'll be your design team. Like I haven't seen that yet. I've played around with a bunch of them. Like they're cool, they're useful, but they're not replacing my sales team or doing all the design. And so
The thing is that they're not going to be, and this is what everybody does this for every major thing. It's like it's going to replace and it's going to fix everything. That's not going to be the case. But like what it today, as it is today, it has given people the ability to be way more productive. Like, just take writing, and, which everybody in a company does, and also just coding. Just those 2 things, you are way more productive,
I
and
think
you
you're
need less
you're more
people.
productive. I don't know about way more yet. Like I think that still remains to be seen. Like, I wanna see that come true in 2025. Like, I'm rooting for it. I think it'll get there, but it's not
I think it's there.
way more. Like,
I'm coding. I haven't coded in years. I'm coding, like, into production stuff. Like, it's crazy.
yeah. I mean, I think for prototyping, but my engineers are not they're not saying they're twice as productive. Maybe they're just not telling me that, but they're they're not saying they don't feel that way. Like, I asked if they use Cursor, they haven't really found value with it yet. So I think it's still early, and definitely some companies are taking advantage of the tools, and they're definitely increasing productivity, but I don't think it's fully where it can get and where a lot of people are imagining that it might even be.
I think it has less value if you already have an existing code base. If you're able to use it from a blank slate, so we haven't spoken about this, but I've started something new, and so like we literally
There
have
it
like,
is.
yes,
God,
I'm
thank
not
you, so
gonna,
God.
I'm not gonna mention what it is yet. I'm not ready to talk about it. Um, but it is incredible what like very small team can do using the latest and greatest stuff out there without
Yes.
having any baggage behind you. But
Yeah.
if you have an existing code base,
Yeah, we
an
have 9
existing
years of
shit,
baggage, so,
it's harder. I
yeah.
get it. I get it. But I am fair. But I think that this next generation of startups have the ability
Yes.
to take advantage of that. Or the other companies that are still, I think that even the smaller companies have the advantage. The people who will fall behind are the ones that don't dive into these products and don't understand what they actually can do.
That's true.
And they
Well,
are going to die.
let's take that as a, uh, you know, rallying cry to dive into these tools and start really.
Well, you even see it, right? Like, and this is what we've all, this is why we're in startups. Like every single company that's ever existed has had a demise. Like there's no company that's ever lasted forever. And they've always been disrupted by the latest and greatest whatever. And you even see the cracks in the armor of Google right now. They're getting hit up by Perplexity. They're getting hit up by Chat GPT.
I
This
mean,
release their
worse
search products.
worse than those products is Google is cannibalizing its own business,
Sure.
with its AI answers that are not that good. And my hot take is like Google is fucking itself right now because it is trying to compete with all the AI out there. But like, and so it's showing these AI answers now for so many search queries. It's not showing ads. And as a result, like everyone's getting fucked. And the answers are not like, even for my industry, childcare, like you will ask Google a question and it will give you a very basic overview of, you should use a nanny, you should use a babysitter.
Right.
AI has the promise to deliver such a much more nuanced answer and result based on your very unique situation. Anyway, in the meantime, Google is just fucking itself. And I think some point, like Google's AI needs to get better or needs to start showing, links again. The year of the demise of Google, is that what you're saying? I should sell my Google stock? Right. Oh, I mean, more people are using Google's AI answers than anywhere else because they're in search result. Google has, everyone using search still, but it whether it's good, I think is the part that I would say it's not. Even when we had that tsunami, who are not aware, we had everyone in the San Francisco Bay Area got an emergency alert on their phone
Yeah.
that said, "You are in danger. There is a
Right.
tsunami that's
Right.
gonna happen in the next hour." We all panicked, and then you'd go to Google and you said, "Is there a tsunami?" And Google's AI answer said, "No,
Right.
there's not a tsunami."
Right.
So it can be very wrong and very dangerous because at the time, there was an emergency alert
Right.
and it was not canceled.
Right.
Uh, Now people are saying, well, maybe actually the AI was super smart because it ended up getting canceled. But
No, come on now.
I think it was based on old data that it said there's
Yeah.
not a tsunami happening right now. And so you could imagine that, during emergency kind of real time situations, the AI answer may not even be aware that that's a real time situation that
Yeah.
needs a different model for.
Yeah.
But anyway, there was no tsunami and we're all safe, but we
Yes.
all thought we were dying for an hour there before,
Right.
like the weirdest hour of my life.
Yeah, it was. All right. Well, why don't we end on that? Everybody, if you're in a startup, Use the AI tools. You have a leg up on your competition, whoever that is. If not, you will get left in the dust. Um,
And stay safe out
and
there.
stay safe out there. Sarah has some really great tips for everybody. And we'll see everybody later. Bye.
Bye.